Hello, I'm Joan Brown. It's my great pleasure to host this segment of the Marin Women's Hall of Fame show. Since 1987, the Hall of Fame has inducted over 140 Marin women of distinction, women who have made immense contributions to the county of Marin and its residents, as well as the world beyond. Honorees have distinguished themselves in many fields: education, science, business, philanthropy, the arts, politics, law, philosophy, and religion. Each honoree has been a force for positive change in our community. It is a great privilege to acknowledge and document their contributions. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Toni Shroyer, who's being inducted into the 2023 Hall of Fame for her pioneering work in social change. So Toni, welcome.
Thank you.
And let's begin by, why don't you just kind of give us an overview, a little bit about your professional and community work.
Oh, good. Well, I grew up in San Geronimo, a small town, and so I'm a native Marinite, born in Marin General. I work for Coldwell Banker. I'm one of their top producers, and I'm also very involved in the community, also involved in Novato, as well as Marin City. One of the things which is nice about my career is I have flexibility and flexibility of time. So I can be pulled in different directions as well as work. So for instance, if I see like there's graffiti when I'm driving around to appointments, I can write it down and we can have that abated through our gang graffiti abatement program with our volunteers. Also, if there's been litter or abandoned couches or whatnot, I can make sure that the city is involved, or I can personally have it picked up. So it's kind of the broken window theory. You know, if you see something that it's not quite right, you need to fix it, and that's how my philosophy is.
Thank you. And now I'd love to know a little bit about you on a deeper level. This is a tough one. How would you describe yourself as a person?
Oh my gosh. Well, if you talk to my sister, Nikki, she will say I have, two speeds, fast and faster. So I have been blessed. I had parents, my father was a Presbyterian minister and my mother was a nursery school teacher and a homemaker for 4 kids. And so we were always involved in the community and always had a very welcoming home where you can come in and talk and that kind of thing. I would also describe myself as a person that has a very deep faith, that a Christian faith. I'm a Protestant, and that we have an obligation to be a good neighbor and to be involved and get involved. So I've been very blessed to have known people that have needed a hand up and some help, and I have a lot of family support, and we're able to bring people to their doctor visits or bring extra meals to them and to get involved. And I do believe...
And you do that personally or through an organization?
Oh, both. So through my church, Good Shepherd, which is in Novato, also personally, and then also through other groups that I work with. Novato Horsemen's, I'm on the board, and there was a member that was going to the food bank that we found out about, and we helped her with money collection and housing issues, and it turned out really well that we can just kind of pool our resources together and help people.
So something, I know you have a tremendous commitment in Marin City, and I'd like you to share a little bit about that. Like, how did you get involved? What pulled you to that community?
Marin City is a wonderful community with outstanding views, with incredible people and incredible people of faith. And what drew me to that that community. I was reading articles about their housing and how they had a lot of challenges with leaky faucets, with rodents, with faulty electrical, and all of these housing challenges. And as through my business as a real estate agent, I do believe that everybody deserves to have a safe place to live and a habitable place to live. And that wasn't happening at Marin City. So I went to some of their residential council meetings. And this is a very underserved population that may not be as organized as other underserved populations in Marin County. And it's an incredible beautiful area. And sometimes people hear about Marin City, Golden Gate Village, oh, it's just violence, because that's kind of what you hear. But we have some very, many generations of families that are so strong and so committed, and they deserve our help, and they weren't being served. So I got involved through voter registration. We had a great, some great voter registration days where people all came in and registered to vote. We had like 25 to 30 people registered to vote for the first time. We have also had litter pickup and also community building. They also have this wonderful shop called Finders Keepers, and people can come in, anybody from Marin City but beyond, that need maybe clothing, and it's all free, household goods and stuff. And so I've been helpful in organizing the community to bring needs that they need. And right now they need microwaves, so we're in a microwave push to get them
microwave hunting.
Yes.
So tell us more about your family and your childhood, and who inspired you and who influenced you?
Oh, well, it was definitely my parents, Bill and Sally Fredrickson, and then my grandmother, Sam. But growing up in as my father was a Presbyterian minister, and I was, quote, a preacher's kid, we had wonderful chaos. The phone was always ringing. My dad was like the social worker of the day, because in the 70s and 80s and early 90s, that's kind of out in West Marin, that's what you had. So he visited and helped the church and the non-church. Didn't matter if you were an atheist, agnostic, or any type of religion or non-religion, he was there for you. People would have Reverend Bill written on their wall. You know, he was like the 911 call. And I went to somebody's house that I didn't even know they knew my dad. It was there, the first number on the wall. So he was instrumental in the community, as my mother was. I mean, and every Thanksgiving and Christmas, there was somebody that came to our celebrations that didn't have a place to go, because my mother always said, you have to make sure everybody is welcome in our home. And it was, I'm the youngest of 4, it was a really nice time to grow up in the San Geronimo Valley. It's a very loving community where people look out for each other. And just as an aside, the school is very natural, and that got me very involved into the environment, because at a very young age, we would go out on nature walks with the teachers, and they would pick up scat, and they'd break it. This was not rubber gloves or anything. And they'd break it, and they'd, let's see what this fox ate. Let's see what this deer ate. We'd all go, yeah, that's pretty cool. And you know, pick it around. And it was a very neat, natural, wonderful place to grow up.
Can you tell us about an important learning in your life that has been key to your success?
Well, I think the key to my success is that I've been blessed with a lot of energy. I've been blessed with ambition. I'm blessed with drive. And I think the key to my success was when I was 7th grade, I went to my dad and I said, I need a pair of pants to wear. I have holes, and I'm tired of wearing my older brother's cast-off jerseys and stuff from Pop Warner. And my dad looked at me and says, get a job. So I got a job since the 7th grade, and anything.
What was your job?
Well, that one was babysitting, and cleaning houses. But no honest job is beneath me. And I think, getting back to your question, working for Jack in the Box was my first job that I had when I was 16, because the only place that would hire me. That was the best job I've ever had, because it showed me that I wanted to, be ambitious. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to do something different and not do that for the rest of my life. So, and it was kind of interesting with my parents' philosophy, with the 4 of us. It was like, we're going to go to college. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of where, and you're going to all pay for it. So we all paid for it ourselves, and it was just an expectation, and we didn't question it.
So how did you pay for it?
Well, babysitting, cleaning houses, answering phones, being a receptionist, you name it, I'd do it, and just scrimped and saved.
Where'd you go to college?
So I attended UC Davis for 2 years, and then I graduated from UCLA. So I studied psychology at UC Davis, graduated with sociology, and went to Sonoma State University to get my teaching credential, which I did. That's another story.
Well, let's go right to that story. Okay,
so back then in the early 90s, I received my teaching credential. I loved it. I wanted to save the world. And I taught, I substitute taught for $50 a day. So I either could pay rent or eat. So I couldn't do both. And at the time, this is different now, but at the time, there were like 100 applicants for every spot. So I didn't even try.
Right.
So meanwhile, I was getting my teaching credential. I was working at a mortgage firm, and I fell into real estate by accident. The rest is kind of history.
And was it a good fall?
Well, yeah, I think so, because it allowed me to not only have the flexibility that I talked about, it allowed me to make a certain amount of income if you worked hard, where I could give back. And every time I sell a home, I give back to the community, be it somebody personally, be it to a nonprofit for helping people and housing, or for a lot of reasons. Or animal rescue. I do a lot of that.
Okay, so how did you get into animal rescue? And that's kind of a big piece.
Yeah, it's a very big piece. I've always had a cat or a dog or something in my life. I believe that animals really feed our souls, and they're at the mercy of us, like children. And so animals, they just kind of find me. And we were, my husband and I were first married. We were living in Larkspur, and I said, I really want to raise the kids with manure and goats. Manure, goats, and some dirt. And we started off with an old pony named Buster that was had 1 foot in the grave and one on the banana peel.
So this was in Larkspur?
No, so that was in from when we moved from Larkspur to Novato to get some land, and animals found us. So people, these little pigs that people adopt for Christmas and birthdays, they get to be 350 pounds. Well, what are you going to do with that pig? You can't have it live on a deck. So we've adopted a lot of animals like that. So right now we have a lot of feral peacocks that we feed. We have feral cats from the Marin. Friends of Feral, a phenomenal organization. We have the 2 pigs, we have lots of chickens, we have 4 horses, and these are animals that come with a name and a story, and the story ends well.
And your chickens lay eggs?
Oh, yes, and it's like the gold right now. Yes, they're wonderful, absolutely. And then our son, when we were away, he came back with a pit bull mix, and he said, from Oakland shelter, and he said, Mom, but you love animals, and they were going to, put them down, so I thought you'd be happy. I'm like, oh, honey, a pit bull mix, but people love their pit bulls.
My granddaughters have the nicest pit bull in the world, and I think pit bulls have a bad rap.
They do. I'm beginning to love this pit bull, even though it growls at me at the end. I'm like, no, I'm your grandmother.
So how much land do you have?
Well, we have over an acre. Yeah, so it's all very well spliced out. We have an old goat named Gus.
So I'm guessing you've had mentors in your life.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what you've learned about mentorship and being a mentor?
Well, yeah, my grandmother, Sam, who was Native American, she was from the Choctaw tribe. She was a big mentor of me because she, like my mother, her daughter, they really were into social justice, and the big movement at the time growing up, and which was very near and dear to our hearts, was the Cesar Chavez movement of the farm workers. Mm-hmm. So you better believe there was no certain products in our house or my grandmother's house.
No grapes, huh?
No grapes, no Gallo wine, no, that kind of thing back in the day, because at a very young age we were told these are horrible conditions of our farm workers, and this is not this is not something we can tolerate as a society. So my grandmother had us pick strawberries with the farm worker children to say, this is the conditions, and it's hot, and it was hard. And
you went just to a random field?
Well, because my grandmother was involved in Oregon with farm workers there, and that's how she got involved. And then, so she was teaching English to the children there, and so she was as volunteering, and that's how we got involved. And of course, the Central Valley too. My mom would take us to talks, and so we were marching down 4th Street in the 70s, passing out these products and help the farm workers. So
interesting. Can you talk a little bit more about your work in Marin City?
Yes, it's still very dear to my heart. There's so many challenges that they're trying to overcome. There's been some good things that are happening. But for instance, like 2015, the Marin Housing Authority did a physical assessments looking over all the units.
Inventory.
Inventory, yes. And in the boilers, there's 8 boilers that needed to be replaced. It's now 2023, and those boilers still need to be replaced. So there's still a lot of deferred maintenance. I know that they're working towards that, but it's been a long time coming. It's not soon enough.
Is this in the Air and Green building?
Yes, and as well as some of the low rises, but more so in the high rises. And if you go up to the high rises and look outside, they're not $1 million views, they're $1 billion views. It's beautiful architecture. The campus is outstanding, and yet things have moved too slow for these underserved population. And Marin County as a whole needs to do better, needs to do a lot better. And we need to do it now and not keep waiting and having things pushed off. You know, fix the leaky faucets, fix the vanities, fix the boilers, fix the faulty electrical.
And who is the we who needs to fix it?
Well, it's Marin Housing Authority, yeah. They need to do a better job. And they can, and I think eventually they will.
And there's new leadership there?
Very much so, and that's going to be good, but it needs to happen faster, for the residents. And there's also a lot of people that have grown up in Marin City that are now adult children that want to live in the community that they grew up in, and they've been waiting on the list for 12 years. And others from the outside of the area have gotten placed, but they haven't either. So we need to do a better job of keeping families together.
So have you done anything real estate wise with them?
With Marin City? Well, there's been talk about they actually wanted to do with the HUD buildings, but have home ownership. And right now that hasn't happened, and that may not happen, but it's something that we need to really look forward to, because there are units that people, could get from HUD, and they could have equitable sharing. So that's a work in progress.
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
You have provided a 3-generation home.
Yes.
And the importance of family.
Oh, yes.
Would you talk a little bit about that and what that was like, having the 3 generations, and how you think that has impacted your children and their values?
Well, God and family, that's what it's all about. And my mother lived with us for the last 5 years, and it was wonderfully difficult, fabulous, and exhausting. Yeah. And my mother had more energy than I did. So,
so it was. Anyone did.
No, she did. So it was like, Mom, stop! Can we take a rest? We're like, no. But she never wanted to be put in a home. She always viewed that, in her words, that's prison for old people. Don't ever let that happen to me. So, and my sister was a great help too. She lives in Medford, Oregon, but she would take Mom for her breaks and stuff. But it showed the emphasis to my children that, like other good cultures, we take care of family, we respect the elderly, and love sometimes can be difficult. But it was wonderful that my kids learned, Nicole and Luke, patience, understanding, great stories, and I'm seeing it a lot in Novato and in Marin City. Multiple generations, 3, sometimes 4 generations. And I think it's wonderful, because so many cultures have done that, and we need to come back to that. That helps with housing, it helps with, support. It's just wonderful, and I encourage it.
And certainly mental health. Were your kids living at home for that full 5 years?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And did they have responsibilities?
Oh, yeah.
With her?
Yes, absolutely. Because Mother loved to walk, and she loved to walk a lot, and I didn't want her walking alone. So when she was done with her 3-mile walk, she wanted to do another one. And so
wow.
She was in amazing shape, amazing shape. And this wasn't just quiet walks. This was fast walks. He was a power walker.
Yeah.
So yes, we all took turns. We all helped. And my husband has been fabulous, yes. So
You want to talk a little more about that?
Oh, my husband, yeah, he's got patience of a saint. He's a wonderful person. His mother is 86, and his sister is living in the house where they grew up in Mill Valley, and the sister is taking care of the mother. So that was that was their father's wish, and it's happening.
Nice. So I'm sure that people who are watching this interview have been inspired by your professional and community work. What specifically, what kinds of things inspire you? What keeps this energy fed? I mean, obviously in some of this work, things can drag you down. What keeps you going?
Well, obviously my faith, my Christian faith, it's a blessing, but it's also accountability. You need to be a good neighbor, as in all religions. And like, for instance, we have a widow last about year that lives across the street from us. She's lovely, but I said, we're never going to forget about you, because I remember when my dad died after the first 6 weeks, people kind of left, and my mom was lonely. I said, we'll never. So once a week, we make sure that we have, extra spaghetti. And she cooks for us too now. It's like, no, we're supposed to be cooking for you, and we take care of, Jesus said, take care of the orphans and widows. And that's our obligation as a society to do that. And there are a lot of lonely people out in Novato, in Marin City, that just need that touch. And just that phone call, that card, that visit to say, we care, you are important. And we saw with COVID too that a lot of people were very depressed and suicidal. And it was amazing how that all came out and what we know. And we just have to keep letting people know that they are important, they're appreciated, and that we care. And one by one, it takes a village,
And there is an organization called Marin Villages, which on an organized basis does this too. So it's great that you do that, and it's great that there are lots of resources in the community. But taking that personal responsibility, I think is really great. What are your hopes for the Marin community? What needs specifically would you like to see addressed that would make us stronger and more vibrant?
Well, I would hope that Marin City would be equitable, that they would be equitable to the rest of Marin County. For instance, drainage. Their drainage hasn't been effectively fixed, yet other areas, like in Green Bay, where our Coldwell Banker office has been. So I want equity for the good people at Marin City. Also, my hope in Novato, there are a lot of RVs that are parked in Binford Road, and we can do a better job. We can house people in other areas that Marin County owns some land where we could put. We could also buy RVs that are habitable versus people living in a vehicle that's not habitable. So we need to do a better job with that. Also, too, graffiti, we're seeing that all over Marin County. And I would hope that people, if they see it on private property, knock on the door, can I paint over? Ask the city, can we start a volunteer group? Because that's a broken window theory. If we don't need or deserve the blight, some of it's pure vandalism. So those are the 3 things off the top of my list.
So obviously, housing for the unhoused is a giant issue in Marin County.
Very much so.
And the state mandated housing is huge. Do you or have you yet connected with organizations that are working with that, like Homeward Bound of Marin and others? Or are you doing this primarily on a one-on-one basis? When you say we need to do this, what can you suggest to people who are watching this, how they can feed in to these important issues?
Well, that's an excellent question, Joan, and there's 2 ways I would look at it. One is, personally, Jim and I have housed 5 different people that were unhoused. One for 5 months, one for 2 years, one we currently are. I think we as individuals, hey, we have an extra room, or hey, you're welcome to stay here until you can get on your feet again. So we personally, as residents in Marin, need to do that. Moreover, Homeward Bound is such an excellent organization, and donate to them. Participate in their fundraisers. I know when I was on the Babe Ruth board, we sold their dog cookies, support great organizations like that. Habitat for Humanity, which reminds me of Jimmy Carter, banging on the wall. I mean, that guy, man, he never stops, does he?
No.
At 91, he's still there. So support those organizations that are helping, but also personally get into the weeds yourself and help out and bring people into your home, because be inconvenienced,
So instead of making good trouble, you make good outreach?
Yes, absolutely. Good trouble too,
Good trouble too.
Yeah, we gotta, the politicians in our city and county, we need to kind of ride herd as well, make them accountable.
And have you found politicians and decision makers who are your advocates in the things that you care most about?
Well, I think they need to do better. All of them need to do a better job, rather than just have meeting after meeting, more solution oriented. I'd like to see that. For instance, Binford Road, what I mentioned about the RVs, with things oozing into the wetlands, we can help not only the environment, but help the people that need to be housed and come up with some solutions, which I've presented.
Good. Okay. So you do a lot. Your story is rich. You have a lot of accomplishments. Is there one area or focus where at this point you would see that you have built or are building a legacy? I mean, you've got more to do, but to this point, where do you see your legacy work? How would you describe that?
I would like to be remembered that I put aside my white privilege, and I spoke out and beat the drum for the good people of Marin City at Golden Gate Village, that it's still not good enough what the county is doing. We need to do more, not only as residents all over Marin, but our government needs to really help this vulnerable community much better. And I want to be remembered that I gave them hell, and I'll keep on giving them hell until they have an equitable situation like the rest of us, equitable housing, equitable happiness, until they're considered and have the opportunities like everybody else.
Yes, that is phenomenal.
That's my good trouble.
Thank you, Toni, so much for sharing your stories and your incredible life with us. The Marin Women's Hall of Fame is a program of the YWCA Golden Gate Silicon Valley. If you would like to learn more about the Hall of Fame and our honorees, please visit www.yourywca.org. Thank you so much.